Welcome back to another episode of the Caffeinated Librarians, and it is May the 4th, so may the 4th be with all of you. And if you haven't guessed by that introduction, today we'll be talking about Star Wars. Star Wars has been kind of a big part of our library. Every year we had held, until recent years, because of COVID and other things, we held a special Star Wars event where we had cosplayers come in. We had a bunch of other little activities that centered around Star Wars. We have our own Star Wars book collection. You could say a lot of us are kind of Star Wars nerds here. And so today we're going to spend some time kind of reflecting back on some of our favorite Star Wars memories, our favorites, and, all around Star Wars.
Before we get started, can we get our weekly Breaking Bad update?
I haven't. So weekly Breaking Bad update.
We're on the money.
Where did I go? Walter's still a butthead, and they were gonna end the whole thing. Jesse was like, "I'm out," and Mike is still probably the best character in the show because he's doing Mike things. And Walt's was.
This isn't.
The last episode I watched was, I believe, Mike took Walt's away. I only watched one episode after that week because I've been watching other things. Oh. So, and he tied Walt to a radiator.
Nice.
And that was great. And I was like, haha, you deserved it. And then Walt escaped miraculously. And I was just like, all right, little respect.
He's just smarter than everyone in the room.
I hate him so much.
There has to be that one character that can outwit everyone.
Yeah.
I like. I'm sorry. The beginning of that sentence will have nothing to do with the rest of it. But this isn't spoilers because it's a prequel. But get ready for. There's a lot of Mike in Better Call Saul. So
I know. That's why I'm trying to get through Breaking Bad, is to get to Better Call Saul, because I really like Saul. So it's funny. I want to learn his origin story. So first off, I guess we'll get started. How did you guys all become acquainted with Star Wars?
I remember we had the big VHS box set of the original
black one?
three, the black one with Darth Vader on it, and those were probably some of the earliest movies that I really remember watching, and I remember being so pumped when The Phantom Menace came out. I remember going to see it, and I remember my mother or my father telling me that the movies are going to come out. There's going to be 9 movies total, and they're going to come there, and it's going to be 9 years between them. So, 8 or 9-year-old Lewis is like trying to sit there, do the math in the movie theater, like, if there's going to be 9 movies and they're going to come out 9 years apart, but I think what they meant was like the next movie was going to be 9 years later or something. So I was worried. I was like, wow, if the 9th movie comes out when I'm like 93, am I going to be around for it?
That's a very irrational fear for a kid, though.
Yeah.
Why would you tell me this?
I'm not going to see the end of Star Wars.
Yeah. I was really concerned, and I was like, it kind of had a little existential crisis at 9, But
Thanks, Mom and Dad.
Yeah.
Existential crisis.
Yeah, they need to explain things a little bit better, and I've told my mom that about other things also. She doesn't do a good job with explaining things. But so that was kind of my first memory of Star Wars was those VHS tapes, and I think I still have them, but nothing to watch them on. But now I have the the Blu-rays and everything like that. So
I think I was the same. I had that same VHS box set. My mom had it, and I know I watched them through her, but I also had a woman that I used to help because she had a hard time moving around. So I helped her, and we would sit there on her bed, and we would just watch Star Wars. She was a huge sci-fi fan, so like every weekend when I'd help her, like with her cats and stuff like that, we'd sit down and we'd watch like Star Wars, and it was kind of like a favorable memory for me. I don't think my mom ever put into me the existential dread that your parents did.
Yeah,
but it was very
Did you ever
concerning.
play with any of the Legos?
I did.
Star Wars Legos were the best.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
They were just awesome.
Video games too. I
Oh,
love
the video
Lego
games
Star
are great.
Wars
Yeah.
games.
Yeah.
I just got the new one. It's kind of
yeah?
wild. Yeah, it's
Nice.
open world. It's
Oh, is it
insane.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, is it on PS4? 4?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I'm one of the few probably people on this planet that never really watched the original trilogy until, well, that's still the case because, well, I watched the first film like twice. I still haven't seen the other two of the original trilogy. It just wasn't big in my household. Like to this day, my mom will say, I don't get the big deal about these films. Like she doesn't really, I guess, like sci-fi or. And then when I was in high school, the trilogy, of course, that I remember was the one where Darth Vader is young, his origin story.
Prequels.
The
Yeah.
1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, those came out when I was in high school. I watched those because a part of me, like, I love fantasy, and I know that sci-fi is not considered fantasy, but
Star Wars leans more on the fantasy side.
Because it
But-
follows the same trope as the classic hero's journey.
Yeah, and,
But
like, and none of the
yeah.
science is thought out there.
yeah. So that's part of that was part of the appeal, and also in theory, it sounds really good. This epic space opera. I just think sometimes the execution falls short. Of the newer ones that I've seen, my favorite is Rogue One.
Rogue One was
It's a good one. It's
fantastic.
quality.
I watched that completely like enthralled. And I told my mom, this film is excellent. I love this film. The later ones with Rey and Ben Kenobi, I was more invested in would they ever get together. Of course, it didn't happen. Spoilers. But
You mean Kylo Ren?
We got a
Kylo Ren.
Reylo.
Sorry.
Raylo.
Ben Kenobi. My
Listen-
goodness, I hope not.
Force Ghost Ben Kenobi.
But actually,
being a
his name.
pest.
But actually, in my defense, his name is actually Ben.
No, you're right. It's Ben Solo. Yeah.
He
So
has a Sith name.
So in my defense, people, his name is Ben. I just got the last name wrong. And I know whose son he is. I'm not.
What son is he?
He is, Layla and Han Solo.
Leia.
Leia. Whatever. You people are
Not the Eric Clapton song.
people are killing me.
I think it'd be really cool if in one of the Star Wars movies, all of a sudden there's just a Layla needle drop, like, and it's the piano coda like in Goodfellas. Play that over Order 66.
So they came much later. I didn't grow up with it. I have family, of course, that did. One of my cousin's former girlfriends once questioned whether or not I was American because I hadn't seen the original trilogy.
Interesting.
Yeah, she was like, "Are you even American?" And I'm like,
Who are you?
"I guess not." Yeah, but like I said, the concept is very interesting. One of the reasons why I watch the movies, in spite of not being 100% emotionally invested in whatever happens to these characters, I think it's the execution. Like, I recently rewatched the first one of the original trilogy because we're going to be talking about it in our other podcast, Fairy Fable Librarians. Check it out. And I was telling Lou the whole scene where Luke and Ben Kenobi, they've come across the dead Ewoks, and Ben Kenobi's like, Jawas, thank you.
Best characters
They're-
in Star Wars.
They're
sorry.
desert people. Okay.
Desert Bears.
They're the people that try to rob people that go into the desert. Okay. They come across the dead guys, and Ben Kenobi's like, the laser marks are too precise. This wasn't the work of average people. These are stormtroopers. And then Luke goes, oh, my uncle and aunt. And he basically finds the charred remains of his home, the charred corpse of maybe it's his aunt. I really can't tell. And I was expecting like some emotional beat. Like, you just found the charred remains of your family. And you would think like he just underwent a minor inconvenience, and like I said, I don't know whether that's the acting, the script writing, or the directing. It could honestly
lean
be all
towards
three.
No, I'm gonna lean towards directing.
Yeah.
George famously doesn't really know how to direct actors.
And you
Like-
you were saying that earlier.
On
I was
Yeah.
saying that same thing.
on
Yeah.
American Graffiti, he just kind of had Ron Howard do it because he was like, I don't know how to talk to the people.
Really?
And, yeah,
Wow.
and like there's a lot of stories if you watch old interviews of the cast where like Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford are like, George, you have to change this dialogue. People do not talk like this.
So it's not. Thank you.
I like his style, but sometimes it is odd.
Because it's like even another one where the princess what's her name?
Leia.
Leia. Not Layla. Princess Leia, like her home planet gets blasted right in front of her. And once again, the emotional response where, oh my God, the planet where my parents live, my people live,
Where she had her first puppy.
Exactly, probably her first kiss, her first prom dance, gets blasted in front of her. And she was like,
Alderaan chunks
like,
everywhere.
yeah, you'd be like, you will regret this.
I really like
Have you
in
seen
that
this
scene, she's doing a British accent that she does not keep for the rest of the movie.
It was a British accent.
Oh, she like
Oh,
she,
yeah.
she
she
does
Robin
a
Hood
weird
it.
little British tint in her voice, and then she drops it in the rest of the movie.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't never notice that.
You never saw the Robot Chicken Star Wars specials?
I
They're one of the
have.
best things ever. One of the ones is literally Darth Vader takes a dinner roll, and he's like, "Oh, I'm a poor defenseless little planet." And he's like, "And here's the Death Star," and he goes and he just breaks it. He's like, Alderaan chunks everywhere, right in front of Leia, and she's just like.
Yeah, it's like they're not there. And I was telling Lou, like, a good example is from another sci-fi franchise. It's a Joss Whedon film, Serenity. And one of the characters experiences a loss of her partner, but it's in the middle of this epic battle. They're basically being pursued by these cannibalistic space pirates. So her lover dies really dramatically in front of her, but she doesn't have time to grieve because cannibalistic pirates, and they need to get out of there.
Such is life.
Exactly. But at the same time, you understand that something horrible has happened to her. She's trying to process it, but at the same time, she realizes our lives are at stake. I need to get it together because she's like the second in command. I need to lead these people, get them out. But you know she's grieving. Like I said, in those major moments in their lives, it's almost like it's a minor, like I got a splinter in my finger.
I will
Move
say,
on.
though, I don't think George is going for big emotional impact. Well, no, like,
feel like he
sincerely. Because, like, those movies are, he will openly say they are riffs on, like, old Flash Gordon serials that he watched as a kid and fell in love with because they were goofy sci-fi, and he adored it. Until, like, I mean, not to get all film nerd about it, but...
Film nerd away.
Nerd up.
So
nerd out,
Star
yeah.
Wars, I mean, it comes 77, tail end of a decade of depressing new Hollywood films where half of the endings are just brutal, and you just sit there and you're like, oh, I guess life sucks.
And it's also the time of like kind of like these like cult, like really horrible, like B-rated, like sci-fi films that I've seen, like the old school really bad like.
Those kind of
They're
died
not
out
bad,
by
though?
the 70s.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh.
like
I thought they would have been going strong still.
no, sci-fi kind of dipped in the American consciousness in the 60s.
No.
Yeah.
I wonder why
But-
that is.
I
tastes.
think people were angry.
Oh, yeah.
That
They were very political.
Yeah,
Very
like,
angry.
I mean,
I can see
popular
that.
cinema of the 70s is just furious.
Really?
Yeah, like
Understandably so. Whenever
Like,
there's a big political movement, that tends to be where the movies tend to
Oh,
go.
I guess that makes sense because of everything.
yeah, like French Connection,
Oh,
All
yeah.
the President's Men, Dog Day Afternoon. Not happy
yeah,
films. But yeah, and like Star Wars was sort of the anti that. It was just let's
Different.
go to the movies, eat some popcorn, and have a fun time, and
Okay.
watch crazy special effects.
So emotional depth has no place in it. I get it.
It's just fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not supposed to be like a tearjerker.
But then how do people like I'm curious though, and I understand that this is just my opinion. There's someone who's but how do you connect emotionally to a character who what am I trying to say? It's like
I think especially in like Empire, the writing
Yeah.
gets a little more based in emotions.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, because like when you think about it, and this is
And-
going into the later films, like with Anakin and Padme.
Yeah, in the
Padme or
prequels,
Padme.
George is definitely swinging for more of like a high opera sort of thing.
Okay.
Where he wants everything
He wants
to be
political
really heightened
instead
and-
of, yeah, I could see that.
Oh, okay.
I think because like the
But-
first trilogy was supposed to be like the fairy fable librarians are gonna discuss on their podcast, but when it comes to the hero's journey, like nobody really is ever emotionally invested in the hero itself. Like I don't ever like you read like 12 Labors of Hercules. I'm not emotionally invested. I really don't care after a certain point that he's going through all these trials. It's just there's a point to it all. But I think it's it's a part of writing too that sometimes when you add side characters, people end up liking the side characters more because the side characters make the hero better as a person and as a character. If it wasn't for the side characters, like if you think about people's fan favorites like Han Solo and stuff like that, people like them.
Ford's chagrin.
But he is a dynamic character. Like when you meet Han Solo.
But the only reason you like him is because he makes everybody else seem better.
Not
he does. He makes
not
the whole
really.
Story better.
No.
In my opinion.
Oh, you think he makes it?
It's like if it was just if it wasn't for him, none of the characters would be getting to where they needed to be, all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. They'd be having trouble still, stuck in a desert, trying to figure out what's going on. But you have a smuggler character who's kind of like this in-between character where he's kind of a mysterious character that can be built upon throughout the entire story, and he kind of is built a bit more throughout the entire thing versus the hero who we already know. He comes from, farm town, Poe. His family's dead. He's got nothing left. Whatever. But Han Solo, what's going on with Han Solo? I mean, he's a very handsome man in the middle of space. He's in trouble. Why is he in trouble? We learn why he's in trouble, but still you're like, oh. But now he's joining the hero, and he makes, things seem less annoying.
And he's got a best friend that's
talking
Chewie.
A big old dog guy. Chewbacca rocks so hard.
I'm just curious how everyone
doesn't have to say a
understands
word.
Chewbacca, because there's really no variation to his growl. So, how do you...
You either speak Wookiee or you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say.
Go learn it. Just learn it.
You should watch the holiday special where a good half of it is untranslated Wookiee speech. And you're just sitting there I'm watching a sitcom where all the dialogue is them growling. What?
It's what are they saying? It's not important.
I first saw Star Wars. I was probably 5 or 6, and I rented. My uncle probably rented it for me, but the VHS of Return of the Jedi from Mayapack Library.
Hey, shout out Mayapack Library.
Shout out
And
Mayapack Library.
I don't know why I watched the last in a trilogy first, but it didn't matter to me.
Because it was cool.
Saw it and I loved it.
Yeah.
It was awesome. I didn't know who any of the characters were, but I was like, okay, that's Luke, that's Darth Vader. Okay.
Got it.
Wait, that's his dad?
And I definitely saw Phantom Menace on TV around that time too, and all the prequels except for Revenge of the Sith were out by that point, and I saw Revenge of the Sith not long after in theaters. So I was into Star Wars since then.
Now let me ask you guys a question. It was probably Jedi, but when you actually see Darth Vader's head. Was that Jedi at the beginning of Jedi?
I think.
Or was that Empire?
In Empire, you get the glimpse of it when the helmet's being put on him.
When you see his room and the pod. And...
Made him a little less scary, didn't it? You're like, this guy's balding, he's sickly.
He's human.
It makes him sad because
Yeah,
it's just
right?
oh God, you're not cool. You're just
He's like,
you're a
melty
Frankenstein.
Yeah, this whole time I thought you were a badass, and now you're not.
He's still a badass.
Yeah.
He's just hairless.
He's just a block of moldy cheese.
But maybe that was the whole point. Maybe the whole point is that he has this mystique, but once you peel away the layers, you see that he's just a man. A man with many, many issues.
Ogres are onions.
In Revenge of the Sith, there's a lot of Frankenstein stuff with him at the end, so he's definitely pulling from that sort of
a weird
man
melted
became
baby.
a monster thing.
Am I I don't know. It probably wasn't the scene itself, when Anakin actually slaughters all the little Jedis.
The younglings?
No, that seems funny.
I love that scene!
All right, I'm
Master
glad you said
Anakin, what are we going to do?
that.
We're all gonna die. That's what we're gonna do.
And there's just been so many riffs on that now.
And I think,
Such a
going
fun
back
scene.
to my point, because it does not hit any emotional beats. I've watched the scene, and I was like, okay, he's going to kill a bunch of kids. He slaughters younglings, as they're called.
Hey, look, in college, I had a tradition with my
You
friends.
kill a bunch of younglings.
No.
We
Once
regrade
a
a temple.
year after finals, we would get together and we'd watch all the prequel trilogy. And imbibe a lot.
Nice.
And by the end of it, Revenge of the Sith maybe felt like it was 30 minutes long, but it was also the greatest thing I had ever seen. So
Nice.
Well, the marching into the temple is one of my favorite scenes in Star Wars. I thought it was so well, like, I love seeing the bird's eye view of the entire, like, army coming in about to... And then he goes and kills the younglings, and you're sad, and you're like, oh, no. What a bad
Well,
thing.
Lou apparently wasn't.
Yeah.
He found the whole thing comical.
It's comical after you've seen it because of how, like, I'm not gonna lie, like, Padme's like, you killed younglings! And I'm just like, he
it
did!
can be two things at once, I think.
He's just edgy! That's all. Those kids, it's like, you feel bad for the kids, but at the same time, it's just like, you can't help but, like, do a little poop.
I still liked it. I mean, you know, it was good. I wish that they didn't kill Darth Maul so early.
They bring him back in the cartoons a lot.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
because
Yeah.
he's supposed to be... Well, it's interesting from... Well, I remember when we were introduced to General Grievous, there was a big rumor going around, and I don't know if it was true or not, but he was supposed to be kind of like, because he's a cyborg with the lungs and the eyes and the heart, I believe, those are supposed to be the remains of Darth Maul put into... They tried to actually, like, save him.
I think that was just a rumor.
It was like a crazy rumor,
Yeah.
but when it came out, I was watching and I was like, this
were
makes
like,
a lot of sense.
please,
Look at the eyes, look at the
please.
eyes, look at his eyes, and look at his. I'm like, look at it. But he was still cool.
And you know, honestly, he was probably only cool because of the two-edged lightsaber.
He's
He's got a cool design.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the dude who plays him is a killer stunt actor,
Yes.
so...
Speaking of stunts, how do we feel about fight choreography?
always great for me. I always have fun watching.
Because in the first film, it leaves much to be desired.
The stormtrooper.
They're doing he's doing samurai stuff in the first.
That's what it's
one.
supposed to mock.
Yeah,
It's
and-
supposed to be the, like, space samurai.
Yeah, he's. I mean, and then in the prequels, George clearly watched some Hong Kong movies and was like, all right, they're gonna be doing flips and they're gonna be going nuts.
But they look so cool.
I know, I love it.
Have you ever just watched the YouTube videos of these people who, like, clearly have watched the movies way too many times just to get the choreography down, and I'm still amazed by them? They have an actual, like, it's not, I don't know what it's called, but they basically have their own little Jedi temple where people actually go and they train with, like, their lightsabers, and they, like, they have, like, performances they put on for people. And they just go ham, and you're just like, this is so cool
Do
looking.
they fly and do flips?
They do, actually. They do, like, the, like, aerial stuff. And I'm like, I want to do that, but God, I would break my back doing it.
see,
But they're
like,
so cool. They're so into it.
We give side eye, but they have actual Quidditch teams in college where they're straddling a broom and running around.
My friend did that in college.
So
I think doing Star Wars fights is cooler.
They're so cool.
but I do like that. I was recently watching clips of people reacting to the Mandalorian, the episode where Luke comes to, and I know his name is Grogu, but I call him Baby Yoda. It
He's
just
Baby
sounds nicer.
Yoda.
And I was watching fan reactions, and I was almost on
I
the
went
point
nuts.
of tears myself because you see how emotionally invested people are in these worlds. But it's a beautiful thing because you somehow develop a connection with these characters, with the storylines, you know, and I can understand. It's like when I watch the Harry Potter films or the Fantastic Beasts films. You know, you develop this emotional connection, this visceral reaction to what you're seeing. And I was watching people legit crying when they realize it's Luke who picks up.
I did.
But I was almost feeling the same way. I was like, oh my God, who is it? I said, oh my God, it's Luke, you know, so I could understand it. So I'm not trying to knock any Star Wars fans. That's not my intent here. I'm just...
I haven't seen any of the Disney Plus stuff for Star Wars,
Same,
but
yeah.
whenever I hear about Baby Yoda, I just think about the time Laura Dern said that she thought she saw him at a basketball game, and she refused to elaborate on it. And then, like, on Twitter, someone quote tweeted it with "Believe women," and then she replied, "Thank you."
The Mandalorian, I think, is a really fun show. It's I kind of like the whole, like, in-between stories, but not making them, like, super... The Mandalorian was fun. It was a lot of fun. It gave you a lot of more like stuff going on in the universe, stuff that happened in between. And I liked the Mandalorian faith too, and I wanted to always know more about it.
I've never picked up any of the Star Wars shows, even like the Clone Wars stuff.
I'm trying to get through Boba Fett because growing up, Boba Fett was like my favorite like character. I loved him to death. I thought he was just the coolest.
I was never too into the Fets.
I was super into the
Fets.
I
like the other bounty hunters in Empire more.
That's why I was so upset. There was a game that was supposed to come out that was supposed to be about the bounty hunters, and they canceled it, and I was so angry.
But there were people that were kind of upset, though, that they were going to do a show based on that character, saying, like, he's not a good character. Why would we care about
Those people just don't know Boba Fett.
Well, like,
the show
he doesn't say anything in the movies.
He's just
there, and he
says one thing, and then that's it, and then he just kind of nods. But he was supposed to be the quiet badass that's supposed to be like, ooh, he's intimidating.
And then he gets eaten by the Sarlacc.
Well, apparently not, according to Boba Fett. Which was, I still think it was like a lot of fun, but I feel like what they've been trying to do is, I think Jon Favreau has been doing a pretty good job. It's hard getting into Boba Fett though, because it's been years, and I loved The Quiet Mystery, and I did want to know more about Boba Fett. Like, did he survive the Sarlacc pit? Did he, like, what happens to him? And I think the show made me love Tusken Raiders just a bit more. They're so great. They're not nasty people like you thought they were. They're just a group of nomads just trying to make their way, and I'm like, I love them so much. But once they made Boba Fett into, like, a mafia lord, and as much as I love mafia people, it just didn't feel like Boba Fett anymore. He wasn't doing his bounty hunting. He wasn't showing off his gadgets. Then again, he lost all his gadgets, but he's not traveling space and doing cool things anymore, which is kind of what I had hoped the Han Solo movie that came out.
Blew.
It did blow.
I kind of liked that one.
If there was a show, I
didn't have an issue with it. No. I liked the inside of the ship a lot. I thought it looked very cool.
It was cool.
Yeah.
But
that was my main review of it. I like the inside of the ship.
I like the ship.
Yeah, thought it looked sick.
But like, I felt like Han Solo, like that movie, should have been like kind of like what they're doing with Boba Fett, which are these small miscellaneous adventures. I would love to see the small miscellaneous adventures of a young Han Solo. You know, doing his work. I would love to see that with Boba Fett. Him just doing his work and being a bounty hunter. But I'm still having a hard time trying to watch it in preparation for like the next Mandalorian. Mandalorian was a lot of fun, but Boba Fett's I'm having a hard time trying to get through. So I'm sorry, Star Wars fans. I love him immensely, but I'm having a very hard time.
But maybe that's a case in point where
and then they
should
changed
just
his
leave the mystery.
ship name. Yeah. They changed his ship name too, also, which
what's his ship name?
His first ship was called the Slave One. It was called the Slave One, and because they wanted to be more politically correct and
he's a bounty hunter.
Yeah, he is. They changed the name of the ship because they didn't.
Like, does slavery not exist in a galaxy far, far away?
It does very much. It does very much still exist in the galaxy.
People.
They named it the Fire Spray.
I guess that sounds better. Arson. So
his ship doesn't do anything like that, though.
Does it have flames? It needs
no.
Flames. No.
It just
I wanted
guns.
to have like 70s flames.
It just has guns. That's all it has. I'm not for
needs
the change.
A number painted on.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not.
I think it'd be way cooler if all the ships were like El Caminos and
just beep beep. Like the ones. There's actually, I think, an episode of The Mandalorian where there's I think it's Mandalorian. No, it was Boba Fett. It was really stupid. They had a bunch of kids in like 60s like leather jackets and motorcycles and cars, and I was just like, what is this? This looks like a drive-in movie, black and white drive-in movie, grease looking space scene, and I'm like, what is this? They have like the dumbest looking like space bikes. They look like scooters to me. They're the dumbest thing.
You know what I love in A New Hope when they go to the cantina and there's just a bunch of guys there and it's just all clearly stuff that just Rick Baker had laying around in his garage, and so there's just like a werewolf dude, and it's like, oh, awesome, there's werewolves here.
Yeah. And the band keeps playing the same song over and over again.
The song rules, though.
That's all I got.
Goes.
Oh, interesting.
They're incredibly ugly. They look like.
Well, Robert Rodriguez did that, right?
I think he did that episode.
Yeah, that
he
makes
might
sense.
have, and I was just like, they're a bunch of punk teenagers, and he gives them the most colorful,
It makes sense
obnoxious
that it is
looking
from the mind of Spy Kids and Shark Boy and Lava Girl.
and Machete.
I don't think he's drawn from Machete for this one.
Probably
I think
not.
He's drawn from his kid stuff.
It's just like it looks so out of place on the planet of like tattoo. This planet.
Maybe they're just like doing like a cross space tour. Maybe they don't really come from that planet.
They are from that planet. They've always grown up there.
What's the one he did? It was him with the girl with the machine gun leg, right? Or was
Yeah,
that
Planet
Tarantino's?
Terror.
Planet Terror.
Yeah.
He did the double feature.
He did Tarantino was Death Proof,
Yes.
right?
Yep. Who's
That's a good one. We should talk about that next week.
Grindhouse.
I've never seen that movie, but I know what you're talking about.
It's a good gore film.
Doesn't she get her leg chewed off by a zombie, and that's why he puts the
I don't
machine
really
gun?
remember. I just remember her shooting.
Yeah, that was.
I
hot.
haven't seen either of them, so
Okay.
So it'd be perfect to watch.
yeah. Who's everyone's favorite weird little guy in Star Wars?
I like the Ewoks.
The Ewoks rock.
Yeah.
I always liked them.
Yeah.
I do think it's a crime in the special edition they change the song they sing. In the
they
original,
really?
it's Yub Nub, and Yub Nub rules. So
Why'd they change it?
I don't know.
Oh.
George Lucas did
can't
this thing where
explain most
every
of the
year they would come out
changes.
with a new special edition, and he would always add something or take something out. And I guess that was the price that year.
Oh, that's a shame.
So, I really like Jawas. Jawas make me very happy.
They're cool.
They're
I
just-
like the eyes a lot. They
Well,
got
there's
the,
two different
Uncle
kinds of
Booney
eyes. Did you know that? There's two, I think, races of Jawas where they have some have red eyes and some have yellow eyes.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
And you actually see them in The Mandalorian also, which is a lot of fun. They really like eggs, apparently.
Like scrambled eggs?
There's this whole episode where he goes and he brings them a giant egg of this creature, and they're like, "Oh yes!" And they just bring it and they start just eating.
Oh, they actually eat the
they crack it on open and they just eat the contents of the egg raw.
So they kind of Rocky Balboa.
Yeah.
They did.
I can respect it.
Yeah,
No
I
wonder
like
they're
it.
able to survive. But I think what's more interesting about the Jawas is not only do they go around and just like pawn things and clearly jack up the prices, they're the original scalpers, but nobody really knows what they look like. And apparently, and I looked this up, I remember seeing it, but I brought it up from my own memory. But apparently, Jawas underneath their hoods are said to look like giant rodents, or like devolved
That explains
humans.
the sounds.
Yeah.
Someone said that they give off a musky animal odor, and then it smells kind of like wet rats, and underneath that they're quite furry. So, but we've never actually
There's
see them with their
a lot
hoods.
of them in New York City right now.
Yes, and I will welcome them all into my house. I love them. They're so cute. That's what I want my child's first costume to be as a Jawa. I wanna put him in a little
Glad
robe,
you said costume.
and as he's just making noises, that's it. Just a robe. Jawas.
What I want my child's first pet to be.
I mean, he'd bring him money, right? But they're kind of greedy, and I enjoy that. They're just trying to make a name for themselves. I love them. They're adorable, and they're family oriented.
No, that's nice.
They like to steal things.
They'll rob you blind.
They're like
but
little
family
chaotic-
matters.
Little chaotic things, and I'm into it.
Simone, have you come across any fun little creatures?
No, not in the Star Wars universe.
Nothing
Except-
made you smile.
The one that kind of looked like penguins that you
The
had
porgs?
up before.
The porgs.
I like the porgs. They were cool.
And in one of the newer Star Wars films, those nun-like creatures that live with
Yeah,
fish things?
the nuns rock.
it's like the
I don't know
ones
if I
where
remember
They're
the
they're on Luke's planet in Last Jedi. They're just hanging out in the background.
These things. They're the ones who take care of the
yeah.
They take care of the
I like
ruins
them.
and stuff.
Every time like Rey breaks through something, they're like, oh, we gotta rebuild this
The
time.
Lanai, or Lanai.
I really like, it's odd. I'm not a huge fan of the Jabba stuff in Return of the Jedi, but I do really like all the little guys hanging around the palace.
Yeah.
Max Rebo is awesome, the little elephant guy on the keyboards.
Oh, he's the best.
And the tiny dude who laughs, it just looks like a Muppet character, Salacious B. Crumb. He's awesome.
Technically, he is a Muppet.
I know,
They're all
it's
Muppets.
Frank Oz, but like he really looks like he's from like Muppets Take Manhattan. Just, he's the rat in the background.
Apparently, he is from a race called the Kowakian monkey lizard. It just happens.
You
to be.
can tell me anything. You could tell me he's a Yoda, and I'd say, yeah, of course.
He's Baby Yoda.
You know, every time I think of Jabba, all I think of is Pizza the Hut.
Oh, from
Spaceballs.
Spaceballs. Oh
Yeah.
my god.
Like, it's just immediately the only thing that comes to my mind.
It's so stupid,
Yeah.
but it's such a good joke.
Yeah.
Like,
the Schwartz.
I love how gross he looks in that too. Like, he's not even pleasant.
It's not edible
popping.
at all.
He's just.
Yeah.
Bleh.
Oh,
I do
that's
think-
such a good movie, Spaceballs. I love that movie.
If you haven't seen
love
it, it's a
Mel
Mel
Brooks.
Brooks classic that I feel like is underrated and that a lot of people don't tend to watch, but I honestly recommend it. I love that movie.
Yeah, it's just funny and stupid.
I like Spaceballs 2, The Search for More Money guy.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I always thought the Hutts were very fascinating too as a race of individuals because I know in Boba Fett you meet his brother and sister, which at first I was very confused as to whether they were brother and sister. I was like, is that the sister with a husband maybe? And they're like, nope, brother, sister. And I went, oh, I can't tell. there's no telling. And I know in the prequel series you see Jabba's wife. Very, very brief moment.
Oh, yeah, she's at the pod race.
Oh, yeah.
Which is one of the coolest scenes in Star Wars.
I just like the sounds of that one.
Such a good sound. I went to they tried to put the 1, 2, and 3 in theaters for a bit, but they only managed to put out the Phantom Menace, and they put it out in 3D, and I like went and bought my ticket right away. I was like, pod racing in 3D? Hell yeah.
What do you guys think of the costuming?
I think it rules.
Yeah.
I think it's very simple.
Stormtrooper. I love the Stormtrooper uniform. I would love to have like a real Stormtrooper uniform.
You probably could buy one.
You can.
Oh yeah, but they're
you
like
can.
crazy expensive.
If you save up, we can do a GoFundMe.
Yeah.
We're gonna open up a GoFundMe for Lou to make his Stormtrooper goals,
His
come.
dream come true.
But we have a really nice book in the library, and it's all about the Star Wars universe and the costuming. Like Queen Amidala, I love her costuming and the inspiration. Like I know he was heavily inspired by Japanese samurai outfits, and he was also
And the
inspired
geisha.
by this classical Japanese samurai film, which now I can't remember. It inspired George Lucas's, like even the way the Jedi costuming is and everything.
I don't know exactly the one, but I'm going to assume it's a Kurosawa, and it's
Yes.
probably Seven Samurai.
Yeah.
Probably. That's probably one of the most famous.
Yeah.
They always have a different rendition of it.
George
coming out,
paid,
like, every
paid
5
Kurosawa
years.
back. He got Kagemusha funded
Oh.
in the 80s, yeah.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah, so I love the costuming.
Amidala probably has some of the most elaborate costumes in
Yeah.
all of the Star Wars. I think the rest were all very pretty simplistic in terms of like what they wore. The Sith always seem to have amazing style. They're not wearing uniforms. They're just all black, and I'm just like, Dooku's got a cape. It's good looking. I was just like, ooh. I like that Siths are like have their own like. They're like, you can just wear black, and you're just like, just black. And they're like, yeah, that's it. That's the uniform. And they're like, sweet. And then they go full goth, or they just like look really cool. But the Jedis are like, there's no variety. We just wear that, normal
Well, because
tan.
it's almost like a religion.
It
It's
is a
supposed to be-
religion.
Yeah, they're monks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's supposed to be
Boo.
plain, and you're devoting yourself to the Force, not to
Gross.
your stuff.
So what do you guys think? Are you guys for the Jedis? Or are you guys for the Sith? Or are you neither?
The middle way.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
middle way. What's the middle way for you?
You know, you can be a Jedi, but you can have emotional attachments.
Yeah.
So Sith Lord.
No, that's
Yes.
not what I said at all.
You want emotions? Gross. That's what the Jedi think. They're like, emotions? Get out of here.
I think that's why they almost die out.
Yeah, that's the point of the prequels.
Now we can't, like, you know, give our children these really cool midichlorians and can't
Oh
pass
yeah,
it down.
someone I was gonna try to figure out how that whole midichlorian thing works.
Don't ask about it because
You
literally
get the cells.
the original like trilogy, like, you know, 4, 5, 6 was all like the Force is some mystical thing that you can tap into if you're a Jedi, or like, you know, if you just you are like related to Jedi. It was just a magical force, and then the prequel trilogy they tried to explain the Force by making it science, which is the only science aspect of, you know, Star Wars they tried to explain. Or they're like, oh, they're just, you know, microscopic, you know, things found in your bloodstream called midichlorians, and your midichlorian count determines how strong you wield the Force.
They mention it once.
Once. But then everybody went nuts, and they were like, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah, like I love watching Star Wars like theory and world building episodes. Like I just love how people go to town trying to figure out things that probably George Lucas didn't even give.
Well,
two
because
thoughts
there's
about.
the books too. There's I went down a rabbit hole with the Star Wars book canon. But I haven't read any of these books. So I don't know how deep they get into even talking about midichlorians. I know they talk more about like the kyber crystals that make the like lightsabers, and how you're supposed to technically go on your own little quest to find your own kyber crystal. And
I
it's
like
supposed to
getting
be
your-
like a
Your
ceremony.
Harry Potter wand.
Basically, it's like each one is supposed to be special, and you're supposed to go, like Padawans are supposed to go on their own little, you know, journey of the self to find their kyber crystal. Hence why there's different colors, and except Mace Windu, because, you know, his is, you know, purple.
That's
He's the
the-
only one
That's
with a
because
purple
the
lightsaber.
actor asked
Yes.
for
Samuel
it.
Jackson.
Yeah, he was like, I
Thanks,
want
Samuel
purple.
L. Jackson.
I've seen an amazing clip of Sam Jackson talking to George on the set, and George is like, yeah, you know, I think I figured out the lightsaber color for your character, and Sam Jackson's like, really? And George is like, yeah, I'm thinking purple, and Sam Jackson just beams. He's so happy.
Of course he is.
Oh, wait, the sound. I remember loving the sound.
Oh,
that the lightsabers
everything in
make.
Star Wars has such a satisfying sound
Yeah.
with it. They're really, like, if nothing else, those movies are 10 out of 10 for sound design.
Like even when they're just standing there holding it, the hum, and then when they swing them, and then when it hits another lightsaber, you're like, wow, that's satisfying.
You want a lightsaber?
I would love a lightsaber. Actually, it's funny that you bring that up.
You can get really
We're going to
fancy
Star
ones
Wars.
now.
Can yeah.
We're going to Star Wars. We're
Yeah.
taking Lou to Star Wars. He's going to build his own.
when this is going a little off topic, and I apologize, but it's kind of on topic. But I guess I just like sounds. When Lord of the Rings came out, I fell in love with the sound of the sword coming out of the sheath. The shh, and then the sound of it hitting another sword, and then the sound of them like going like shh, shh, on the swords. And I actually went to, I don't know, some toy store, found a sword that had 3 buttons on it and had those sounds. I was like, this is the best toy
They
I've ever
made
had.
it for you
Yeah.
specifically.
This is what I've been looking for my whole life. So, and now of course the toys are just insane and like much more realistic and fun. But like that sword was great, and I think I fell asleep with it that night too. I rolled over, it started making noise. I freaked out. It's like the Oracle coming for me. So,
The Urukai.
it was good.
Now, see, Simone, I do relate to you just never seeing Star Wars because it wasn't big in your house. Because I never saw Lord of the Rings for the same reason. Just never came up. Yeah. My siblings weren't into it. My parents weren't into it. So it was just like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Now's a good time to force them into
Oh,
it.
have you still not seen it?
I still haven't seen it.
Oh boy, let's push everything back.
No.
Push
no,
everything back. Lord of the
no.
Rings.
We're gonna meet somewhere. We're all gonna get couches and pillows, and we're gonna watch Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
That's it. Okay.
We're
gonna Clockwork Orange
get
this whole
couches
thing.
and pillows?
Couches, pillows, house, get comfy. We're all gonna make snacks. We're gonna bring snacks, and we're all gonna watch Lord of the Rings. Only the extendeds though, because I'm not watching
And I'm not watching
no
the Hobbit
TBS cut.
I'm watching the theatrical cuts first when I do watch it.
Don't you dare.
I've seen arguments for both sides, okay? It's not a settled topic.
Well, the theatrical cuts, if you want to, like, not devote entire lifespans to watching the films.
Only like a couple extra minutes.
It's like 90 minutes shorter for each one.
Yeah, but the extended once you've actually seen the theatrical cuts, they're just as good.
Yeah, I know. I figured start off with the theatrical and then you can watch the extended.
Yeah,
you know?
but the Hobbit films don't even waste your time.
Don't bother.
Like
I don't
they're
really have an
fun.
interest in them.
Basically, the Hobbit films were an attempt to milk the franchise for as long as possible.
We needed a new Hobbit series.
Yeah, no, I don't really have much interest.
It's like
in
there's
them.
Arwen 2.0. There's unnecessary love triangles. It's just
a little
Yeah, it sounds
necessary.
terrible.
it is.
I
They
saw
are.
the first one and then I was like, nope, this is not for me.
I watched all of them.
Yeah, I
Stephen
couldn't-
Fry.
I just couldn't do
That's
it.
my boy.
So listen, what's the future of Star Wars? Does anybody really know? I know David Benioff and D.B. Weiss messed up the last 2 seasons of Game of Thrones because they were supposed to write the next one. Then they were let go because everyone realized that they messed up. Now, so what's the future of Star Wars? Like,
Well, now that the trilogy that just came out is technically no longer canon because I said no.
I've heard that. So they're gonna redo those.
No,
They
they're not.
They're
There's
gonna.
no way.
Disney would do it. Disney would.
Wait,
They're
I'm
such
sure
a cash
canon.
cow.
Where are you getting this news?
They're not canon.
Disney put out a statement saying they're not canon.
When?
That's what
When
all
did
the
they
other
put
Star
this
Wars
out
fans
and
are telling
where?
me.
I have never seen this.
Okay, Amanda has to find it.
All I heard from a guy I work with at the other job, so who knows if it's true or not. Actually, a lot of the stuff he says isn't true, and I'll tell him that.
No, all I'm saying is,
But he told me that people were so mad about the last movie. I thought that they were trying to, maybe it was just that they were trying to get people to petition to make a new ending. Or
Okay,
something.
so
seen
maybe
nothing about
the.
this.
So it wasn't about that. It was about the Star Wars timeline. Disney screwed up the entire because of these last 3 films. They're considered non-canon, but at the same time, Disney, because of these trilogy and also because of Boba Fett, some people are saying that's a theory about the Boba Fett part. Was saying that because the books.
these movies made billions of dollars.
They made billions
They're
of
not Going to
dollars.
say no, don't
So
watch
it's
them.
canon as far as the movies
And
are
it also
concerned,
probably
but it
cost them
divided,
hundreds
yeah.
of millions.
Yeah.
So because the books were written before the trilogy was set, like there were books about like during that time and what happens after all this stuff, Disney went and they created their own canon
Yeah.
instead of following a bunch of stuff, despite the fact that some of their other stuff followed book canon. And instead of talking about it, they made their own. So now the book timeline to a certain point is no longer canon because of Disney.
What's the
Yeah, we
not
knew
the
this,
movies,
though.
sorry,
They
yeah.
said this from the get-go.
Yeah.
what's the movie future for Star Wars then?
I think I want Star Wars to take a break. I think
they're not.
This is what I want.
Oh.
I'm not saying they're not gonna do this, but
They've got
like
too many
I
plans.
would like them to take a break because I think at a certain point they're just releasing too much Star Wars stuff,
Yeah.
and it's not really that special anymore. And it's just like
Kind of like the Marvel stuff
yeah,
now.
it's kind of like
Yeah.
everyone would get super hyped for a new Star Wars movie, and now it's just kind of like okay, there's more Star Wars stuff.
Yeah.
It's kinda coming down hard.
It's sort of just, it seems like an inevitable thing now where it's like, take a break and really work on it and then come back with something else.
Especially since like Disney Plus, they've really been adding shows on top of shows on top of shows on top of shows.
Yeah.
And now I have to watch the Marvel TV shows in order to understand like what's going to happen in the next movie and stuff like that. And it kind of is killing. It's kind of the Star Wars thing now. Is I think they're trying to make up for. I guess they're trying to fill in the details
I
of things.
think most series would be better off if they took a nice little break. Except for not like George R.R. Martin levels, but
And I thought
God,
Disney
no.
did a good job. Instead of just putting the whole series out, they did it like week by week, and I like that because then it gave me something to look forward to in my week. Unlike Netflix, which drops like an entire series and I binge watch it, and then I'm like, well, I guess I gotta wait another
I support weekly television. I think that's That's probably the better way.
It made it a lot more fun. It's like if you didn't have time to do it, you could binge watch it if you wanted it to. If you didn't want to, you had a little surprise at the end of your week, and it was nice. But I do feel the whole it's starting to lose a lot of.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I haven't even you haven't either. You haven't even watched any of the Disney Plus
It's just
stuff.
like just chill for a little bit and come back with something big.
Yeah. It looks like, according to GamesRadar.com, shout out GamesRadar.
Not sponsored.
December 2025, it will be the next Star Wars movie, but there's no, from the Google page I'm looking at, there's no information about it.
Mm-hmm.
I just had a question, because this was definitely floating around when the last 3 films came around. Is Rey a Mary Sue?
I like
What does that
her.
mean?
A Mary Sue is basically a literary trope where there's like the central character. Think of Bella from Twilight,
Oh my god.
where like I am
God.
so
Every
I am.
episode, guys.
She brought it up.
You need to stop
What
with
is
Twilight.
happening?
The original truth.
It's like with Twilight, where you got Bella, who is like, I'm not attractive, I have no skills.
I don't think Ray ever
But-
said that about herself.
Yeah.
No, but no.
Ray just kind of, yeah.
I'm working up to it.
Okay.
Basically, it's supposed to be this character who is not. She doesn't stand out in the crowd. She has no skills, but oh my God, no! You are very important to the fate
I
of the
don't think
universe.
she's
kind
a-
of deal.
I think Ray is no more of a Mary Sue than Luke, and I think
Yeah,
I think
don't.
most of the criticisms for that were coming from a sexist place.
Yeah, I would say
Ooh.
I don't think Ray is like Mary Sue because she's not a boring. She doesn't start off boring. She starts off, we know her life, and then she finds out, I could be a Jedi.
Because people argue, like some of the arguments, and I watched all the films. I had no real issue with Rey. I think,
Ray wasn't an
honestly,
issue.
the last
until the last movie.
yeah, honestly, the last 3 films I thought were some of the better acted of the franchise. You know, with Rey's story, I was invested. I wanted to know who her parents were. Like, I was legit.
I didn't like
invested
the
in this.
answer, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
So-
answer is what ended up destroying the timeline.
Yeah, and
'Cause
like
that was the issue.
I was invested in that. You know, I really was. But I guess some people were arguing that, like, especially when she battles Kylo Ren, who has years of experience, like, how does she best him?
the Force.
Yeah,
But they
the midichlorian count.
I'm just playing devil's advocate
Yeah,
here.
no, I know.
Because they were saying, like, how does she... Basically, I guess they were saying how she, like, advances to, like, godlike kind of levels with, like...
Pretty much.
Very, very little training, very little... I
Because
guess...
she's the last Jedi.
Luke blows up the Death
Kind
Star
of.
after
Yeah.
being a farm boy. Like, you know, this isn't a series
And what's he
where-
been driving the entire time that made him a great pilot? A little like cart on like Tatooine.
Yeah.
He wanted to go to piloting school. Guess what he didn't get to do? Go to piloting
You
school.
also didn't get to go to
Yeah, he's the best pilot in the galaxy.
Tashi Station to pick up the power converters.
Exactly. It's like, how did he become? It's that midichlorian count. Apparently, it gives you godlike abilities to just fly planes.
Okay, so I guess that answers the question. No one thinks that she is. I mean, granted, I felt like a lot
She's
of...
not a dystopian female protagonist in YA literature in the past 10 years. She's not boring. She doesn't have like 50 billion love interests that are interested in her. She's not a boring character per se. She has a lot going for her.
Let me tell you, Daisy Ridley, she should be in more because I really like her, and I
do
feel like
too.
she hasn't been getting enough roles recently.
She,
and
she's
we should fix
she's
that.
incredibly
She
talented.
had a good year, I think, after all the movies came out, didn't she?
I think she was in like 1 or 2 things. I haven't seen her
Yeah.
much recently though, which is a shame because like most of the cast of the new ones were really good. I love John Boyega.
Yeah.
I mean, Oscar Isaac doesn't need any help. He's
No.
doing fine on his own.
I think he's getting his own show,
He's
too.
outstanding.
Yeah. And yeah, Adam
Darren.
Driver too has
Yeah,
been
of
in
course.
everything. So
And actually, there was Tom Hardy made a cut scene appearance.
yeah.
And Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig too?
He was a
Really?
stormtrooper.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, I didn't know
He
that.
was the one that when Kylo Ren went on his little rampage, I think in the second one, like he's freaking out in the room and stuff like that. He's like the one stormtrooper in the hallway, and he's like,
Oh yeah.
go. I think he's the one who also gets like mind erased. I think, but he was in it. He had a cameo.
Did you like the scene between Kylo and Rey when they're meeting mind to mind? They're having like their private meeting.
It was really weird.
I know, but
In Last Jedi?
yeah, but
Yeah, that one rules.
But what I
really
love though
weird.
is that you get the tension between them, and not much happens in that scene. Like, it's very sexually charged, but they're basically just literally touching fingers or like touching hands or whatever.
Sometimes that's all
Who
it
knew?
takes.
And
puts
the,
E.T. in a whole new
the
perspective.
throne room scene with them. Oh my god.
And then Luke comes in and just like ruins everything. But yeah, that was a really good scene. I think they worked very well together. One of the more disgusting scenes is when Luke just milks that creature and drinks her milk. That is just so gross.
Because
Like,
Luke's become a Yoda like freak.
He's a hermit. He tried. Look,
you can be a hermit, but don't be gross. It's like he just milks her and like drinks it and like. the
did you
green
know
stuff.
that drinking, selling unfiltered like cow milk is illegal in some states?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it will kill you.
Yeah. So clearly this cow is cool because it doesn't do that.
I like I like the all the little like hermit freaks in Star Wars.
Yeah.
I think they're great.
Hermit free.
Yeah. Yoda spends like half the time in Empire Strikes Back like stealing Luke's sandwich and just being a nuisance.
Just being a chaotic
Yeah.
entity.
When you're as old as he is, why not?
You know who rocks Yaddle?
Which one's the Yaddle?
Girl Yoda.
Oh.
In the
What?
prequel, she's just in the background in some scenes. And yeah, it's just Girl Yoda, and I think it's really funny because there's like no race attached
She
to
just has
Yoda.
hair.
Like if you look up on the wikis, it just says like Yoda's race.
She's in apparently.
But there's another one. So where do they come from?
That's the mystery.
That's what the next movie's gonna be all about.
Yoda
TV show.
planet. None of the rest of them talk like Yoda. The rest of them talk normal. He made that choice himself.
He chose to speak in riddle. I'd also like to shout out to one of the most badass characters in the series, and she is a librarian. She's one of my favorite Star Wars characters, although only people know her because she dissed Obi-Wan in a library. Her name was Jocasta Nu. And she is the head librarian of. Yeah, she's the one that literally tells him, she's like, well, if it's not in the system, then it doesn't exist. And she tells him twice because he's like, well, that can't be. If it's not in the system, it doesn't exist.
But she's not overly
They got
helpful.
the
Yeah, she ends
librarian
up not
down.
being right.
So she is in one of the animated series, and she is a Jedi in her own right.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, she just is the head librarian, and she has access to like the restricted contents of like
course.
a special area called the Holocron Vault. But I've always enjoyed her. She's one of my favorite scenes in Clone Wars. She's there for 2 seconds, but all she does is give sass to Obi-Wan.
And she does nothing to
After
uplift
she's
our
like, I
profession.
gave you your answer, and I'm like, she's a librarian who clearly was like, it doesn't exist.
But we-
And I'm like, how many times does she's got to tell you?
But we have to do that a lot, so I kind of feel her frustration.
Exactly, because going into, I'm not gonna lie, like my grandmother, one of my grandmothers was a librarian, and she is currently one. And I love that, you know, she inspired me to go into a career in like, you know, library science and stuff like that. But Jocasta Nu, tell you right now, she's a powerful librarian who has no problem giving sass to anybody in the Jedi Order. she's like
old and established.
She's like, I'm trying to help this child over here look for something, and you're worried about a planet. Look for yourself. It doesn't exist.
What planet is he looking for?
He looks for Camino, I believe. He's looking for Camino, but it's a planet that... No, it's not Camino. Is it Camino?
No, it is. Yeah,
It is
because
Camino.
They're hiding the clones.
Yes.
Oh.
Which was cool,
okay.
too.
Shout out to Attack of the Clones. Insane movie. Total nonsense.
Some of the best Star Wars creatures.
Obi-Wan spends the whole time doing Blade Runner stuff. He goes to a 50s space diner.
Yeah.
And then, like, the answer to the mystery was, it was some guy we didn't know who did it. It's some guy who we are meeting now for the first time.
Yep.
Jango Fett.
No.
No, not gonna.
Count Dooku.
Sorry, Dooku. Even though, like, apparently he's very prominent in the books, but apparently, like, the movies, they were just like, Count Dooku, Christopher Lee.
Yeah, that's all you need.
Yeah.
That's true. He's awesome. I love him. So,
Cool. Well, this was fun, guys.
yeah.
Star
So
Wars.
we
Happy Star
have
Wars Day.
happy May 4th. May the 4th be with all of you.
Also with you.
We're in church now.
And I believe on the
It is a
5th
religion.
is Return of the 5th. So we've got 2 days.
Return of the Fifth? That's a thing now too?
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
People online don't want to stop talking about Star Wars, so we get 2 days now. But we'll end this here. We've got a large Star Wars collection if you're interested in building up on your Star Wars knowledge. We've got the movies. We've got everything. We've got the books in all formats. We've got graphic novels, everything. Check out some of our apps. They're located on there too. We just got a new comics app too called Comics Plus.
Is it operational now?
It is operational.
Okay.
Yes, it is. I thought it was last time I used it. Last time I used it. Anyways, have any questions? Come see your local librarian. Come see us. Comment.
If you want to learn
Let
how
us
to
know.
speak Wookiee, we have a book also.
We do.
No, we don't.
No, we don't. But we do have Shakespearean Star Wars books, so we also have those. If you ever wondered what it was like.
And we have Twilight.
We have all the Twilight books.
And Lord of the Rings.
We have the film. We have the films, right?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Ah.
I was only joking. I don't even know if we have the books.
We have the books.
Of course we have the books. So, all right.
Until next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.